Joining us now with more on this to talk about it, Mick Mulvaney, who served in the Trump administration as OMB director and White House chief of staff. He's the founder of Exegis Capital. There are some, Mick, and your former colleague, Larry Kudlow, and I've talked to Larry about it before. The case can be made that you should tax individuals and that to compete globally, we want our corporations to be as nimble and able to invest in innovation and servicing customers that maybe you shouldn't even tax them, but that is not going to happen. Once you acknowledge that there's pressure to tax corporations, is there anything wrong with trying to get a global playing field so that you can't hide places? Is that just a bad idea no matter what?
Yeah, I think it is. I think most capitalists should think that it is a bad idea because it discourages competition. Lower tax rates in certain countries just form the basis for competition between countries. By the way, it's one of the reasons you see the G7 and the G20 countries wanting to get rid of this sort of competition amongst taxes because they're losing at it. It's one of the reasons you're seeing Ireland balk at going to this 15% global minimum because they're winning at it. So, yeah, if you're losing a competition, there's two ways to respond to it. Either you get better or you try and outlaw the competition, which is where the G7, the G20, and unfortunately the Biden administration is taking us.
Is it, when you hear the term race to the bottom, and when you hear that, we had one of our friends, John Hope Bryan, on yesterday saying it's going to stop companies from hiding the ball, going places where they can, rig the system, avoid paying their fair share. It's a race to the bottom. All those points can be made, and most people probably sit there nodding because I don't know whether they haven't thought it through. But you're making the point that it's just not a slam dunk. That's a good idea.
Oh, no. In fact, it's one of the most dangerous conversations I've heard. I had to laugh and smile when I saw John Hope yesterday talking about that. Thought it was a good interview, but I thought people have not extended it to its next logical discussion, which is domestic U.S. policy. You just heard the analysis about the tax foundation, which talks about adding various state and local taxes to the federal tax. There's a lot of progressives, I'm not going to say Democrats, but a lot of progressives who really don't like the fact that we have tax competition in this country. They don't think it's fair that Florida doesn't have an income tax. They don't think it's fair that Tennessee doesn't have an income tax. And they're going to use that same language about a race to the bottom domestically eventually. And that's why I think it's important to sort of call this out for what it is, which is it's a way to discourage competition. Competition has always served this nation well. It serves the markets well. And I do worry about that language becoming part of the narrative about ending a race to the bottom, ending unfair competition, because it applies just as heavily domestically between the states as it does internationally between various countries.
Are we going to do an infrastructure bill? And by we, I just mean as a country, for addressing it to you, is Mitch McConnell going to do an infrastructure bill with Nancy Pelosi, given what both sides are saying?
Yeah, I think Mitch and many Republicans would be very interested in doing a bipartisan infrastructure-only, true infrastructure bill. If that is the environment in Washington, D.C. over the course of the next 6 months, then there's a chance for that to happen. If Nancy Pelosi is serious about this threat that she will not allow the House to vote on the bipartisan bill until they also vote on the partisan reconciliation bill for human infrastructure. If she's serious about that, then I think there's no deal to be had. It's always hard to tell with Nancy. She's a great negotiator. There's a reason she's been there for 100 years. She's really, really good at what she does. But keep in mind, she's under different pressures than the Democrats in the Senate. She's a lot more under the control of the far wing, left wing of her party, because the primaries play such a huge role in these various House races. And her margin in the House is so narrow. So just like John Boehner sort of had to listen to the Tea Party more than he wanted to, she probably listens to the progressive wing of her party more than she wants to. And if they are really holding her feet to the fire on not allowing a standalone vote on a bipartisan bill, you might not see it.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.